Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to lesson 22 in Aqeedah. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen wa afdalu salati wa tamu taslim ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Continuing in Aqeedatul Awam, the Master's Creed, we go on to, in the poetry, Sheikh Ahmed al-Marzuqi's poem. We come to the line where we're talking about the prophets mentioned in the Quran. Shu'aybu, Harunu wa Musa wa Yasa'a, Dhul Kifl, Dawud, Sulaiman, ittaba'. So these are the prophets. The first three we've seen already in the previous episode. Now we come to Yasa'a and Dhul Kifl, Banu Israel prophets. Comes in the Quran, wa Ismaila, wa Yasa'a, wa Yunus, wa Lutan, wa Kullan, faddalna ala al-alameen. And we have preferred them over the whole of the mankind, the jinn kind. Know that the jinns do not have a prophet, it's only the mankind, from the bashar, from the human form, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given that the best of them, that rank, that status of prophets. That is the highest status a man can reach, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has chosen. So not anyone can reach that stage, but Allah has given that and bestowed that upon those who are the golden of hearts. So it's mentioned Yasa'a there. In another ayah, وَاذْكُرْ إِسْمَعِيلَ, mention Ismail, وَالْيَسَعْ وَذَا الْكِفْلِ وَكُلٌّ مِنَ الْأَخْيَارِ. They are from the best. The prophets were from the best, as it says in the next ayah, وَإِسْمَعِيلَ وَإِدْرِيسَ وَذَا الْكِفْلِ. Again mentioning a number of prophets, Dhul Kifl as well amongst that. كُلٌّ مِنَ الصَّابِرِينَ. They were from the patient ones. That's one of the things. They had that patience in them. The reward of patience, Allah has not defined it. So that's such a huge thing, to have patience. And that only happens when you're in that moment of adversity. We shouldn't ask for patience because you will have to have then a test. So we ask Allah that when we are in that test, bless us with patience, give us that to act in the right way, to have that patience upon things that only comes from you, that we know, Ya Rab. So these prophets, they were chosen, they're the preferred ones, and they were the ones, amongst those who had patience, and they were tested the most, and they proved their worth. And then we go to Dawud, Sulaiman, ittaba'. So follow these prophets. These are the prophets these are our stars, these are our guides. They're the ways that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves. They're the examples to follow. Finally, in the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who completed everything. Dawud al-Islam, so both of them, father and son, Banu Israel prophets again, they were from the king prophets. The Prophet ﷺ, he had a choice to be a king prophet or to be a servant prophet. He chose to be a servant or a slave prophet, an abd prophet. So Dawud al-Islam, he was, we know from the story of Talut and Jalut, of David and Goliath, and Dawud al-Islam against Jalut, who was that baddie, that challenger to Talut, the good king. So he defeated him, Dawud al-Islam defeated him, and Allah had blessed him to become a king, just like Prophet Sulaiman alayhi salam after that. So you come to the Quran, Ya Dawud, inna ja'alnaka khalifatan fil ard. O Dawud alayhi salam, O Prophet Dawud, we have made you a khalifa, we made you a successor on the earth. So a khalifa as well, Allah says in Quran, وَإِذْ قَالَ رَبُّكَ لِلْمَلَائِكَةِ إِنِّي جَاعِلٌ فِي الْأَرْضِ خَلِيفَةً. That I'm going to, O angels, I'm going to create a vicegerent on earth. I'm going to make a successor, a khalifa on earth. And they replied, أَتَجْعَلُ فِيهَا مَنْ يُفْسِدُ فِيهَا وَيَسْفِكُ الدِّمَاءَ. Are you going to put in it someone who is going to create disorder, going to create chaos and spoil things and cause bloodshed? Because the angels even knew what humans are going to be like. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then he said that I know and you do not know. So it was Allah's decision. He wanted to put the humankind, the jinn kind as well, but only amongst the humankind to be from the ones who are prophets and who are the guides and who are the ones to show us the correct from the wrong. فَحْكُمْ بَيْنَ النَّاسِ بِالْحَقِّ. So rule, this is Dawud al-Islam, to rule, because he was also made like the king, the judge, he was the judge as well, to rule between people in truth and justice. وَلَا تَتَّبِعَ الْهَوَى فَيُضِلَّكَ عَنْ سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ. And do not follow your desires, as it will make you astray from the path of Allah. So Dawud al-Islam, he was one who was given the Zabur, so he was given one of the great 4 books that we need to know that's from the 4 books that Allah subhanahu has revealed. The Zabur, the Torah to Musa alayhi salam, Injil to Isa alayhi salam, and Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam with the Quran. So the Zabur is a book of, not of laws and legislation, but it's more of a book of singing and hymns and glorification of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, praises. It's a book of praises. So it's a book that Dawud al-Islam would love to read. He would read it and finish it in a day. And Dawud al-Islam, he was given the ability of, he was given the power to, he would do dhikr, he would remember Allah along with the mountains, along with the birds and the trees, so even the other inanimate objects, they would all make praise. In سَخَرْنَا الْجِبَالَ مَعَهُ يُسَبِّحْنَ بِالْعَشِيِّ وَالْإِشْرَاقِ, that we made the mountains subservient to Dawud al-Islam, and ma'ahu, they would, with him, yusabbihna, they would praise bil-ashi wal-ishraq, they would praise during the day. So, and from sunrise till midday, and then from midday till sunset, and they would be all in praise of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and glorifying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَالطَّيْرَ مَحْشُورًا, and so did the birds assembled. كُلُّ لَهُ أَوَّابٌ, all obedient. So they'll all together be praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَشَدَّدْنَا مُلْكَهُ وَآتَيْنَاهُ الْحِكْمَةِ, and we strengthened his rule, we strengthened his kingdom, and we gave him hikmah, we gave him wisdom. وَأَلَنَّ لَهُ الْحَدِيدِ, and we softened for him iron. So iron is something that doesn't come from this planet, it is from outer space. Allah subhanahu has deposited in this earth, and Dawud al-Islam was one of the first who could bend it, he could mold with it, as if it was like plasticine. He could form it to make, because with iron, now you're talking about the Iron Age, you're talking about weapons, you're talking about swords and shields, you're talking about things like that. So Dawud al-Islam could do it with his own hands, and obviously he taught the art of ironwork. So this was one thing given to Dawud al-Islam. وَفَصْلَ الْخِطَابِ, and he was given the in speech, he had just sound judgment and decision in speech and in decision making. So that's Dawud al-Islam. He would have one day for rizq, sustenance, he had one day for that seclusion from people, away from people, and in worship, he loved to worship, and then he had one day for attending to people and their needs. But later on he made it that anytime the people required him, he would be there to answer their questions and requests. So Sulaiman al-Islam, he is then the next prophet, and he was the son of Dawud al-Islam. وَلَقَدْ آتَيْنَا دَاوُودَ وَسُلَيْمَانَ عِلْمًا, we gave Dawud al-Islam and Prophet Sulaiman knowledge. They both had knowledge, and they both were like judges and rule. They had to judge amongst their people. فَفَهَمْنَاهَا سُلَيْمَانَ, so this is one of the cases mentioned in one of the hadith series. We gave him the understanding of the case, and he had understanding of getting a better solution. So when his father judged in the matter, Sulaiman al-Islam very politely in a not displeasing or any kind of rude kind of way, he would show a better solution to any of the rulings that the father made. That was specifically in a garden where sheep owners, they went into the other farmer's garden and they destroyed their whole crops and ate all the crops. So it was in that matter that I've discussed in the hadith series. So he was given understanding of these kind of cases and wisdom beyond. وَلِسُلَيْمَانَ الرِّيحَ عَاصِفَةً تَجْرِي بِأَمْرِهِ, and to Sulaiman we subjected the wind which is a strong and is a really powerful wind, but it was as the Sulaiman al-Islam, he desired it to be for however purpose he wanted to use it, he had the control of the wind. So Sulaiman al-Islam was given that blessing as well. وَمِنَ الشَّيَاطِينَ, so from then the shaitans, the the jinns, he had them under his control as well. مَن يَغُوصُونَ لَهُ وَيَعْمَلُونَ عَمَلًا دُونَ ذَلِكَ. And they would go and dive for him. So this is like diving into the sea to get all the treasures of the sea, the pearls and other kind of jewels and whatever can be found in the sea. They would go and get that for him. And any other matters other than that, however Dawud, Sulaiman Islam wanted to use the jinns, he had them under his power, he had the wind under his power. And يَعْمَلُونَ لَهُ مَا يَشَاءُ. So they worked for him as he desired, and they would fulfill all the requests that Sulaiman Islam had for him. يَا أَيُّهَا النَّاسِ عُلِّمْنَا مَنْطِقِ الطَّيْرِ. O people, Allah has blessed us with the language of the birds, so they could speak to birds. So Sulaiman Islam also had that ability to speak to birds and animals, as he heard in the famous story with the ants. The ants was saying that the army of Sulaiman Islam is coming, and they might not perceive us, and they might not, they won't see us, and they will trample all over us, get into your homes. So that's that story. That Sulaiman Islam, he realized the blessing that Allah has bestowed upon him, and he had such a beautiful dua. قال ربي أوزعني أن أشكر نعمتك. Allah bless me with the power and ability to be grateful for what that you have given me, for your favors. التي أنعمت علي, that you bestowed upon me. وعلى والدي, and upon my parents. And who was his one from his parents? It was Dawud alayhi salam. His father was a prophet. To have a father who was also a prophet, you can imagine his position in front of Allah. So he was grateful for that as well. وَأَنْ أَعْمَلَ صَالِحًا تَرْضَاهُ. And that bless me with be able to do deeds that are pious and righteous, that you are pleased with. وَأَدْخِلْنِي بِرَحْمَتِكَ فِي عِبَادِكَ الصَّالِحِينَ. And make me enter into your mercy from amongst your chosen and righteous slaves that are beloved to you. So Sulaiman Islam, we have the story of the ants, Surah Naml. Again, this whole chapter of the Quran, Surah Naml, because it's to do with the ant, is to do with Prophet Sulaiman Islam's story. Surah Saba. Surah Saba is also the people of Saba, which is in Yemen. Queen Bilqis, they were the sun worshippers. That story is also from Prophet Sulaiman Islam's time, and that's some of the stories we quite know of Prophet Sulaiman. So Prophet Sulaiman as well, he was given all these abilities. He was a thankful and grateful servant to Allah. He had control of the wind and the jinn kind. And so these are some of the prophets and some of the blessings and favors he gave to them. So Prophet Sulaiman as well, he had the miracle that, just like the Prophet ﷺ, they both had that miracle. Normally, prophets, when they have miracles, they have it on the earth. So it's not in the skies, in the heavens, like in the outer space. And there's nothing above the earth in a way. Like it's all on ground level, so to speak. But Sulaiman Islam, he had one he had the one miracle, which was that the sun, he made it go back. So the sun was stopped because the sun was about to set, and he needed to be not set, just like the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, he was resting in Ali's lap radiallahu anhu once, and Ali radiallahu anhu, he wouldn't want to move because the Prophet ﷺ would be disturbed, and by this he missed the prayer, Salat al-Asr. So when the Prophet ﷺ woke up, he said, why did you not wake me up? Because obviously you have to pray as well. So Ali radiallahu anhu, he would miss that Asr prayer. So the Prophet ﷺ, he made that sun by Allah's will, that the sun, when that did set, went backwards, that went back into that Asr time. So Ali radiallahu anhu, he could pray Salat al-Asr. This is recorded in the hadiths. And similarly, Sulaiman Islam, he also had an incident where the sun, he needed to be not setting yet. So they both had that miracle. That's like you talk about on the celestial level. There, we talk about in the solar system, a sun being stopped and actually coming back as well from its normal time, orbiting how it orbits. So, but the other prophets generally, they all had miracles on the earth. And the Prophet ﷺ, though we know the Isra Miraj, we know him pointing to the moon, and that would split in two as was requested by the disbelievers. So all these things, the Prophet ﷺ had such greater miracles that were even above ground, let's say, in the skies, in the heavens. So that's the stories. That's some of the stories of the prophets mentioned today. As we continue to the remaining few prophets that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned in the Quran, and some we know more of, and some we don't. So Dhul, Kifl, and Yasa'a, prophets we know less of, as we don't rely too much on the other books that tell us that we know have fabrication in it, and we have issues like that to deal with. وصلى الله سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وبارك وسلم.